Thank you for the opportunity that we have to worship and to magnify, to adore, to praise your holy name. To praise your holy name. We thank you, Father, for all that you do, for all that you cause to happen, for all that even you allow to happen. Thank you, Father, that it is your divine wisdom that we submit ourselves to. I testify to the Father, to you, Father, as I say to you all the time, even when I'm approaching your word, Father, to study, to see what it is you have to say. Father, I don't depend on intelligence in our own knowledge. Father, you know that in my heart of hearts, that I always say to you that I don't know anything except you are the one who gives both comprehension and articulation. I don't know, Father, how to know it, and I don't know how to say it, except you give the utterance. So thank you, Father, for allowing us to be vessels to be used by you to be submitted to your will, to your purpose, to your plan. I thank you, Father, that your word is so rich, so true. It is a lamp to our feet, a light to our path. Make the quality decision to hide it in our hearts so we won't sin against you. All we want is for you to be pleased, you to be honored, magnified, and glorified. So, Father, thank you for this moment. Thank you for what you got taught my heart, what you opened my ears to hear. Now I thank you that you gave me the tongue to learn, so I may be able to speak a word to those who don't hear you. I glorify you, God. It's all about you. It's always been. It always will be all about you. I thank you, Father, that you chose to do what you have done in our lives. You chose to give us your word. You chose to give us the ability to, to share. Father, I thank you. That nothing before you. It's all about you. Always give you the glory and honor and praise. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. All so grateful to be in our Father's house. And uh, I am, and of course, I'm grateful, I'm sure, as you are, that Father has given us opportunity to experience wonderful times that He has set forth in His Lord in His peace. His times where He causes us to remember, to reflect, to appreciate, to embrace. And I'm thankful to the Father for His word. And I was having it on something a little earlier this week. And having it on something a little earlier this week. As I was looking at a couple of things and reviewing some of my notes that I have. Sometimes, I make all kinds of, I can tell you, random notes in my notebooks. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of these random notes are things that I can clearly understand because I learned some time ago that the Father taught me that it is not His will for us to just study to preach or study to teach, but it is His will for us to study to live. And then out of the life that we're living, then we teach and we preach, because that means that the word is truly alive and well in our hearts. I want to take a look at this as I was studying reviewing some of the notes because I'm prompted by the Father to go back and review as we were going through this time of Shavuot. And as you remember, as we said on last week, that Shavuot, Pentecost, as it is more popularly referred to, was something that did not begin in the book of Acts, the second chapter. It was something that the Father instituted with the people when he gave his Torah. He gave his commands to Moses up on Mount Sinai. We looked at the picture and we saw how all those different things were happening on Mount Sinai a lot. And it looked a lot like the upper room. And as the people were receiving what the Father was giving, that he was fulfilling this promise of Jeremiah. As Jeremiah spoke that he would, and as Joel spoke, but fulfilling this promise that he would write his Torah in our hearts and in our minds. Does that Spirit. And so Holy Spirit came, Ruach HaKodesh, descended upon them. Of course, we know they began to speak as Holy Spirit utterance. And those who were there heard what was being said and said that how is it that they have never left Jerusalem, but they are speaking in our native language about the great things which the Most High has done. And so at the height of the reality of Pentecost, Shavuot, a lot of times the most focus and emphasis, a lot of times I know from my background, the most emphasis was placed upon per se the reality of the tongues being spoken, all those kind of different things like that. But again, for the context, we understand that the reason why all of these people had assembled in Jerusalem at this particular point in time is because this was one of the pilgrimages that they would travel back to Jerusalem so that they could actually participate in the Shavuot of Pentecost. And so that's why all these different people from all these different places were assembled there and could hear these people speak in the language where they come from. But I happened upon, as I was studying and before I segued into, as the Father has given me the instruction to go through each of his basic, and I'm going to say those basic commands that he's given, as I have described before, what we know as the Ten Commandments. In some instances, I even read where they call it the 10 words. But these 10 basic things that the Father laid out for his people are later on more exhaustively explained. So the way I like to refer to the 10 Commandments is I refer to them almost as a table of contents would be for a book that you're about to read. I'm going to tell you exactly what the expectation is, and then further I'm going to explain to you what that looks like. So when he tells us, stuff like not to covet, then he gives us further instruction to tell us what not coveting looks like. And so we're thankful to the Bible because he loved us enough to be specific, so we didn't have to guess about it. But as I was happening on this, I somehow, and I don't want to even use the word stumble because nothing in the will of the Father is by accident. Everything is purpose, plan, providence. The Father always has a purpose for what he does. And in the midst of kind of looking at these things, and I want to wrap, I want to say, matter of fact, Deuteronomy chapter 5, we're going to start right there, verses 6 and 7, because like everything I'm talking about today, I want to wrap it around Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 6 and 7. One of the things I'm understanding more and more clearly as time goes on, I'm understanding why the Father gave us his instructions more clearly. And I'm understanding why he says that what I said from the very beginning, I'm who I am from the beginning, I do not change. One of the reasons why I'm understanding the necessity of getting that in our minds is knowing that the Father established how He wanted people to live, and He says, "I'm going to give you these instructions, and when I give you these instructions, these are how I want you to live." Now, understand this. Understand this. I just need to do this for the introduction. Sometimes when we are introduced to something, we're introduced to it the wrong way, and it shapes our perspective of that. One of the things I'm more clearly aware of, and I was having a conversation with someone about this yesterday. One of the things I'm more keenly aware of is when you use terminology and you say the words law, Torah, and then just kind of different things like that. Our minds automatically make a negative association with those things because of the way we were introduced to it. And we don't grasp the full concept. But you understand that just even in nature, or what we call nature, the reality is a law is really something that works the same way all the time, and it is something that explains the proper function, the proper operation of a particular thing. You know, I've used this example a couple of times before, but and I made the statement that freedom is even governed by law. Like, you don't even have a concept of what freedom is unless there is law to define what freedom is. And we see all the time, we live in the United States of America, and I used to say when we were growing up, one of the things my siblings and I would do with each other, we were trying to, one of them was trying to tell the other one what to do. We would always say, I don't have to do what you say because I live in a free country. We would always say, I don't know why I picked it up, but we always said that to each other. And what I realized, though, is I realized that the freedom that we say that we have in this free country is governed by law. There are laws that govern our freedom. Watch this. And without the laws being put in place, we actually don't get the opportunity to actually live out the full reality of what we don't even know how to identify it. Right? This is why James calls the Torah the perfect law of liberty. Because I find my freedom in law, not away from it. Right? So I have to have law to govern. I'll give you an example. In this country, free country, we are free. All of us have the right to go and make purchase of a vehicle. All of us. And all of us have a right to freely drive down the road and enjoy driving that vehicle. We have that liberty. We not have the freedom. However, there are laws that govern that freedom. I can drive the car, but there's a law that says I can't do it without a license. There's a law that says I can't do it without proper insurance. Right? That law governs that freedom. Right? There's a law that governs the functionality of the vehicle that says if you're really truly going to enjoy this freedom of driving this vehicle, you can't transgress the law of fuel being in the tank. That law covers that. But then you enjoy it because you follow the guidelines, you follow the rules that have been set forth, and you're able to enjoy the freedom of driving. Don't put gas in the tank, don't put fuel in the tank. You can sitting on the side of the road. And while you're free to enjoy driving that vehicle, you won't be able to do it because you're violating the law that governs the functionality of the right? So we have to embrace the reality that when the Father, I'm understanding the more I look into it, the more I see it, I'm understanding that the Father gave us his instruction just like he gave everything else in nature instruction. He gave us instructions. And if we would just follow the example of nature, just do what nature does, and just does what it's supposed to do, everything will work out some way. We don't do that. Okay? So I started looking and I ended up parking in Ecclesiastes. You're like, why would you park in Ecclesiastes? I thought the same thing until I studied this thing a little bit further, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about a thing called vanity, because I'm starting to see very clearly. I saw something when I looked at it, and I looked at the word for vanity, and it just, I mean, that was the first time earlier this week that I ever really even seen it. But when I seen it, it's like the light bulb came on, and you will see what I'm talking about. But before we go to Ecclesiastes, let's read Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 6 and 7, because again, I want to wrap everything around this particular first command. Okay? Deuteronomy. Now, Marie, you have your Deuteronomy chapter 5. Look at verse 6. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you lived as slaves. This is important. You are to have no other, lowercase g, gods before me. You have no other gods before me. I'm just going to stay right there, verse 6 and 7. I'm going further than that. Now, when I looked at the reality of him telling them who he is, you must understand at the genesis and at the root, the Father must be first. He's got to be first. If he's not first in my life, he's nowhere in my life. That's the truth. He's not second to anyone, not second to anything. He's first. Okay? As a matter of fact, when I studied it, it talks about he who leads you, who gives you strength, your defender and your protector. Notice he tells them, I'm the one who brought you out of Egypt. I'm the one who brought you through the wilderness. Okay? I don't want you to ever forget who it is who's speaking to you. That I am your Elohim. I am your creator. I made you, I protect you, I provide for you, and I am supposed to remain first. Okay? Because the reality is whatever or whoever is first to you, that is who you serve. So you serve. And it just hit me so strong as I started studying this, and I want you to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. I started studying this and I started looking at it, and I was like, what is the connect? What is Ecclesiastes? But there definitely is a connect. And I'm going to work with it so that you can see. Ecclesiastes. Collect is what that's called in Hebrew. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Wow. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Let's start at verse number 1. Now, if you have a King James Bible, that the book of Ecclesiastes says the words of Colette, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, are the words of Solomon, right? Solomon, think about this for a moment. Solomon, who was recognized as the wisest man who lived, especially in particular at his time. Okay? Because we know that the greater than Solomon came in the person of Yeshua. So the wisest man who lived on earth at the time, okay, he was world renowned, say it like that, for the wisdom and knowledge that he had. People came to see Solomon's possessions, and they came to see what he had. You understand, when he first became king, you know, the father came to him and asked him what he wanted. And so he didn't ask him for stuff, he asked him for wisdom. He says, I want to know how to go in among you. So this is because you didn't ask for the stuff, I'll go ahead and give you the stuff because you got the wisdom. Okay? You got the main thing, the most important thing. Now the funny thing is when you read through the book of Ecclesiastes, you hear Solomon because he's writing Ecclesiastes later on in his life. And you're going to find that Solomon is making a statement in Ecclesiastes because he's talking about the fact in one place he says, I had wisdom, but I didn't use it all the time. Right? And so he says, but through the wisdom that I had, matter of fact, it was so funny, one passage he says that in much wisdom is much sorrow. You know, because sometimes the perception, you know, when you're looking and you're seeing things, it weighs heavy on the heart. You know, but so he says, vanity of vanities. If you read in Ecclesiastes, vanity of vanities, right? All this vanity. Let me read this text. Pointless, says Colette. Utterly meaningless. Nothing matters. I think your King James Bible says vanity of vanities are all his vanity. Okay. He says, what does a person gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Generations come, generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets. Then it speeds to its place and rises there. The wind blows south, and then it turns north. The wind blows all around and keeps returning to its rounds. All the rivers flow out to the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers flow, they are kept on, they keep on returning. This, y'all. Everything is wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, no matter how much you see. The eye is not satisfied with seeing. I'm going to prove that go blind. You see how frustrated you are. Okay? Although you've seen so much. He says, the ear is not filled up with hearing. What has been is what will be. What has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there something of which it is said, see, this is new? It existed already in the ages before us. No one remembers the people of long ago, and those to come will not be remembered by those who come after them. I, Kohelet, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem, or Jerusalem. I wisely applied myself to seek out and investigate everything done under heaven. What a bothersome task God has given humanity to keep us occupied. I have seen all the activities that are done under the sun. Listen, y'all, and it is all pointless. Feeding on wind. That's some heavy stuff that he said. Because when you read throughout all that he's saying here, he's just basically talking about just the everyday vicissitudes of life. That everything just continually goes on the way it's always gone on. Nothing new under the sun. I know sometimes we label something as new, but then you even look at stuff and certain things just make a circulation. I'm looking at the young people that the way they're dressing today, and I'm thinking, man, gosh, this is like the 80s for you. Yes. It's all like we get a cycle coming all right back. It's like, how do you really think this is brand new? It's new to you, but it's not really brand new. So he says, everything that is happening under the sun, the activity, he says, I have looked at all of the activity that happens under the sun, and none of it means anything. Wait a minute. How do you say none of it means anything? It just says, I looked up the word for vanity. I found that the word vanity in Hebrew, it's the word, and something, there's a lot of this or that, but it was the word haved. And the funny thing is, Avail is really the name of the guy in the King James Bible that we call Abel. Same name, same word. Abel. Avail. Abel. And so I looked up the word and just what it actually means, and this is the word. Abel. Avail means vapor. Vapor. What do you mean? Vapor. Breath. Right. That's all it is. Vapor. Breath. It has some inroads to futility, to pointless, all those kind of different things were kind of associated with the word avail. And when you think about the fact that there is so much that the scriptures have to say about that, it's so interesting about this. Turn to Psalm 94. I want you to see that the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses really says the same thing. Okay. Psalm 94. Look at verse 11. I got this. Adonai understands that people's thoughts are merely a puff of wind. Something. How happy is the man you correct, Yah, whom you teach from your Torah. Well, that's going to be so important in just a moment. Giving him respite from the days of trouble till a pit is dug for the wicked. For Adonai will not desert his people. He will not abandon his heritage. Justice will once again become righteous, and all the upright in heart will follow. Now, I need you to take note of that particular passage. It's going to be very important in just a moment when this well comes on. Job chapter 7. So you see the psalmist. Hey, all the thoughts of man, they're like a puff of wind, right? We're breathing in and out all the time. So again, hevel, breath, vapor. Look at Job chapter 7. And look at verse number 16. So I want you to see this. Let's lay this foundation here. So I have to qualify everything I say about scripture. Okay? Let's look at Job chapter 7. Look at verse number 16. Job says, I hate it. I won't live forever. So leave me alone, for my life means nothing. Think about that for a minute. Solomon just said that all of the passing days and activities, all that stuff like that we have in our life is nothing. And do you know people are asking constantly, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose for my life? That's one of the big questions that people are often asking. And people find, in some ways, in some cases through the help and assistance of what they call their life coach, all that. But they find searching for some kind of meaning for life. And so people find something to do. And when they find something to do, in their mind, they perceive, oh my gosh, I found my purpose. I found my purpose for life. I found my reason for living, the reason why I get out of the bed every morning. This is why I do it. I have found my purpose. I have found the thing that I would do for free. I found a thing that means so much to me. I have found my purpose. This is what people are, right? And they grab a hold to so many different things in life. Okay? Now, before I make my next statement, go to James chapter 4. Before I make my next statement. James chapter 4. What in the world are we striving after when there is nothing new under the sun? What in the world are we arguing over? What in the world are we fighting over? You would think. James chapter 4. Look at verse number 14. We read this one a couple times. Let's read verse 13. Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go to such and such a city, stay there a year trading and make profit. You don't even know if you will be alive tomorrow. For all you are is a mist that appears for a little while, then disappears. That's why he says, instead of just saying, oh, this is what I'm going to say, if the Lord wills. Right? Because you don't know from day to day. But he says, the point is, he says, I think the King James Bible says, life is like it's just a vapor that appears for a moment, and then it's gone. So the word vapor is important here. Number one, you have to understand that no matter how long your life is, whether you live to be 1 or whether you live to be 101, it's the same vapor. It's fleeting, it's passing, it's here, and then it's gone. Right? So I cannot put so much emphasis and focus on this fleeting, passing, momentary, temporary vapor. No matter what status of life, it is all still just a vapor. All of us are merely one breath away. One breath away from life as we know it to the end of it. One breath. Okay? So, we have to understand that no matter the status of living, we actually all truly level out. Let's run back to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. We all level out at the end of the day. Solomon identifies in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 all the different levels and statuses of life, but he says we all level out. Watch this. We all level out, he says, in the same place. Get back over. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Look at verse number 17. I said to myself, the righteous and the wicked God will judge, because there is a right time for every intention and for every action. Now, this is where he quotes in the first part of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, he says the time and the season for everything. Okay? But he says, verse 18, concerning people, I said to myself, God is testing them so that they will see by themselves they are just animals. After all, the same things that happen to people happen to animals, the very same thing. Just as one dies, so the other. Yes, their breath is the same. So that humans are no better than animals, since nothing matters anyway. They all go to the same place. They all come from dust, and they all return to dust. Who knows if the spirit of a human being goes upward and the spirit of the animal goes downward into the earth? So I concluded, there is nothing better for a person than to take joy in his activities. That is his allotted portion. For who can enable him to see what will happen after him? You don't have a clue who's going to drive the car you're driving right now when you leave. I mean, you may have a wheel and you may decide it's going to go that person, but you don't know, they may get it and sell it. So you have no clue. You may leave instructions, and then there may be some legal stuff that happens when you go off the scene because maybe you didn't do something right. You don't have a clue what may happen once you go off the scene. So he says, yeah, it's okay, enjoy your activities. But understand, they're just meaningless activities. Can you hear me for a minute? Do you understand that a lot of what people are fighting over, focusing on, pursuing after is all vanity? It's all pointless. It's all leading nowhere. At the end of the day, whether you have $10 billion in your bank accounts or whether you have 10 cents in your bank accounts, at the end of the day, all men die. At the end of the day, all men have to give account to their Creator. All of us do. So here's the reality. The reality is there has to be, watch this, a greater purpose to life than life itself. There's got to be a greater purpose than lavish homes and fancy cars and fancy clothes. One of the things I tell people all the time, I'm not really impressed about name brand clothing, especially since I've been working in the industry, retail industry. I found out that the same people who make the pants that you buy in Buckle for a lot of money are the same people that make the pants that you buy at Walmart. The same factories, in some cases the same material. Used to work at a place called Stephen Barry's, and we sold jeans like two for $14.95. Right? We sold tennis that were like $14.95. At that particular point in time, people don't know, I'm just going to get Jordans. When you paying all that money for a shoe that costs the same amount as the shoe that costs $14.95. Made in the same factory with the same people, only one is making it during peak time and one is making it during downtime. Blew my mind. And we say the quality is the name. And here's the reality. I was like, if we really got this as his people, we would understand, what he says, right in number 6 chapter, when he says he's put his name upon us as people. I don't have to wear a brand name. I already have the best name on me. Right? The truth of the matter, y'all, if we understand the reality that all of this is vanity. Come on, have you ever watched any of these, what do they call these, pageants? Right? And in some cases, they got little bitty girls that, just started really walking, just even really started understanding what life is. And she is painted with all of this makeup, and she's got wigs and extensions and all this stuff like that in her hair. She's going to all these pageants over, and she's stressing out when she really should be playing with her dolls. Right? All for vanity. Right? I was reading some article, and when I read the article, it was talking about how many people that are in X amount of dollars of debt trying to get a college education. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't go to college. Okay? Please don't say this. But a lot of people, they have gone to college and they've amassed hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And then when they went to the job market to try to get a job, the salary that they're being paid nowhere matches or actually doesn't give them the ability to be able to get out of debt anytime soon. So like they're carrying this debt over and over and over and over again. Right? And I'm thinking the pursuit was to get, I just have to get my college, I just have to get my 4-year degree, I just have to get my doctorate, I have to get my master's. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. But I'm saying that the society that we are part of, that's why I'm so glad the Father said, forgive me for what I done. The society that we happen to be a part of is going after with just about all of their might and all of their vigor. They're going after stuff that is temporary. No wonder we are told, given instruction in Scripture, not to set our affections on temporary stuff. Don't set your affections on things. The stuff that we have here is just for us to use. It's an ends to a means to an end. But it's not. This is not the purpose of my life. The purpose of my life is not to build a 17,000 square foot home. Amen. The purpose of my life is not to drive a Maybach or a Bentley or a that's not the purpose of my life. Okay, if I get the opportunity, I'll find it. But is that what I'm focused on? Is that what I'm emphasizing? But our current culture emphasizes prestige, opulence, excess. And I started to realize when the Father shared with me, he says, go back and read the passage again. The love of money is the root of all evil. Go back and read it again. Love of money is the root of all evil. And just about any type of evil that you can identify in this world, you can trace it back to the dollar. Trace it back to money. There's some monetary gain. Abortion, multi-billion-dollar industry. Illegal, illicit drugs and black markets, $1 billion. All those kind of different. You can trace it all back. Somebody, it's the root of all evil. Money and power, right? Some of the stuff that even is happening. Some of the stuff is happening. Well, not some stuff. All the stuff that is happening because of what mankind is doing. Because mankind refuses to do what the Father has said to do the way He said to do it. And I said, man, it's unbelievable how much greed is killing the people that keep going after stuff more and more and more and more and more. And the more we get, the more we want. I look at sometimes when we're in our job and we have goals and stuff like that they set forth, right? And every year, if our store made $2 million this year, they want the store to make $2.5 million the next year. Then they want to make $3 million a year after that. They just want it to go on and on and on and on and on and on and get more and more and more and more and more. And I'm thinking, wow. Right? And because of the vanity, because of the unappreciation of people, you get opportunity. This is off the side note. When you get opportunity, look at James chapter. I'm not talking about the part that talks about the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous man. I'm talking about read up above that in James the 5th chapter. And it talks about how there have been those who are wealthy who have basically defrauded those with wages and all that kind of stuff. And he says that your wealth is like a cancer. Go back and read it. Go back and read it. You've built up all of this and amassed all of this stuff, but it's only for the latter days. You don't even realize that you really are going to see the fruit of how you have abused and how you have mishandled, how you treat people. And I've noticed that they want the goals to be more and more and more and more, but they want the staff to be less and less and less and less. Right? So they want to do more with less people. Right? I've seen it where they say, well, we're going to increase your wages. And they increase the wages. They stop paying people $8.50 an hour. They start paying them $12 an hour. But what they do to compensate is where you were working 20 hours a week, when they increase your salary, they bring you down to working like 8 hours a week. It's greed. That's all it is greed. Right? So anyway, what happens, y'all, is Solomon identifies all kinds of activity, whether that is the pleasure, whether that is working, whether he even in one since you go back and read that in Ecclesiastes, he even said that even having wisdom in this world is vanity. It's vanity. It's pointless. Right? If that's all that there is to it, it's pointless. Yeah. Think about this. So he says, go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. What happens is, y'all, oh my gosh, this is so important. So important. I'm not going to get this. What happens is our quest ends up leading us to idolatry. Amen. The pursuit of vanity is the gateway to idolatry. It's what leads us to idolatry. Look at it. Look at it. Just look at it. with your own two eyes. Okay? She said two eyeballs. Deuteronomy chapter 32. Look at verse 18. Look how unreal this is. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse number 18. Listen. Let's go to verse 15. I'm sorry. But Yasharon grew fat and thick. He grew fat, thick, gross. He abandoned God, his maker. He scorned the rock, his salvation. And the funny thing is the word salvation is the word Yeshua. They roused him to jealousy with alien gods. I'm not talking about extraterrestrials. I'm talking about UFOs. Okay, we're talking about foreign gods. Provoked him with abominations. 17, they sacrificed to demons, non-gods, gods they had never known, new gods that had come up lately, which your ancestors had not feared. You ignored the rock. Notice the word, if you got a good translation, the word rock is capitalized. He says, ignore the rock who fathered you. You forgot God who gave you birth. Watch this. Adonai saw and was filled with scorn at his sons and daughters' provocation. He said, I will hide my face from them and see what will become of them, for they are a perverse generation, untrustworthy children. They arouse my jealousy with a non-God and provoke me with their vanities. I will arouse their jealousy with a non-people and provoke them with abomination. For my anger has been fired up. It burns to the depths of Sheol, devouring the earth and its crops, kindling the very roots of the hills. I will heap disasters on them, and I will use up all my arrows against them. Do you see? You can read a little bit further about what's happening. Here's the reality. We're not talking about the Father having a temper tantrum. What we're saying is, whenever I embrace the reality of who the Father is, when he's first, and I embrace the reality of his, we said he's our provider, he is our protector, he is our fortress, he is our shelter, he is everything we absolutely need. But when we turn our hearts away from him, he says, when I turn my face away from you, and you lose my protection and my provision, you lose all of it. So what happens is terror comes upon you. I think when the Father told me to go to DC, and he told me to stand at that place of the Capitol and declare, when I read the passage in Psalm 97, I think it was, that said that they wear their pride as a necklace. And then he says, and so all these terrible things start to surround them or clothe them like a robe. Violence, he says, clothes them like a robe. Because of their pride, because of their arrogance. Listen, y'all, I don't, and I'm not picking on anybody at all. I'm not, okay? Just please understand that. But I don't embrace any form of pride. Because the Father hates pride. He hates every variance of pride, whether that is gay pride, especially that's, okay, that's on parade big time this month. Okay? Whether it's gay pride or whether it is the pride of heritage, all those kind of different things, whatever altar we're finding ourselves worshiping on, the Father hates any kind of pride. Any kind of pride. Right? So I don't sing songs that I'm proud to be anything. So I'm not proud. I'm grateful to be where Paul says I am what I am by the grace of God. I'm grateful to be whatever I am or whoever I am or wherever I am. It is gratitude, not arrogance. Okay? So the quest led them to idolatry. Because you know what idolatry is? Idolatry is the worship of self. The apex of idolatry is to worship self. I'm worshiping my own self-importance, my own opulence, all those kind of different things like that. And I'm gonna tell y'all something that's so funny. I know there was a lot of stuff that stirred up at one point in time. Y'all remember when people were arguing about the flag, right? And then they were arguing about statues, and they were arguing about just all kinds of stuff that people got into like the whole argument about. And when they got into the statues, the father alerted me. He says, "Go back to Demetrius and take a look at this." And I went back and looked, and I went on and did a teaching. I don't know if the video is still up. They might have cut the video off. But the video talked about the idols of a nation. And I said, the reality is this: I don't understand why we're even arguing over statues. Because if we did it the way the Father said to do it, we wouldn't have any. Amen. Right? We would get rid of all of them. Yes. Right? Because all of them come against him in some way. And I remember when all this stuff was happening, all this was going on, I said, God, we already have like guidelines how we behave and the standard of how we act. Right? Long ago, I stopped putting my hand on my chest and pledging allegiance to anything. A long time ago. It didn't have anything to do with what was happening. It had everything to do with the Father revealed to me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do like the Hebrew boys. Right? That's what he said to do. Stand like the Hebrew boys. Don't bow. Stand like the Hebrew boys. It said we're not going to bow. We're not going to give credence to any type of God. That's what my pledge of allegiance is. I will hide your word in my heart that I will not sin against you. That's my only pledge. That's the only pledge I have. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's just the fact. I realize some of the things and behaviors that we've learned to do, some of those things are just, they're rooted in idolatry. It's truly rooted in idolatry. It's truly rooted in us taking pride in our own self and in our own greatness. We're not great without him. We'll never be great without him. What makes us great is obedience and repentance. That's what makes us great. We have to come to the reality. Our goal as believers, as ambassadors, is to be biblically sound. That's what we want to be. We want to be biblical. We want to be in alignment with what the Father says. This is why the Father gave us his Torah. It's why he gave us his commandment, because he's trying to protect us from our own vanity. Amen. He is protecting us from our own vanity. He says, I'm going to tell you who to put first, me. Because if you put me first, then that means that you will do everything it takes to please me. That you will not want to disappoint me. That you will want to focus your heart and you will want to focus your will. What my will is will become your will. You will want to do what it is that I'm telling you to do, because you will see that there is benefit in it. Okay, watch. We give you a couple more and I'm happy to stop. So in our own way we seek, and when we seek our own way, we find trouble. Write down Isaiah 51, verses 15 through 18. I'm not going to go there for a second time. But I do need to make this point. Okay, we're going to go to Matthew chapter 6 and verse 25. And then put a little something in Matthew, because we're going to take a little detour to Psalm 39, then we'll come back to Matthew 10. But I want to go to Matthew chapter number 6. Okay, let me make this statement so you must understand. And when I heard it and I wrote it down, I had to keep looking at it for a minute. Keep looking at it for a minute. Keep looking at it for a minute. So I was like, okay, Father, I really want to just get that one, just all the way down. So let me tell y'all something. Do you know, Brother John, do you know that unfortunately, and I get it from the world system, but unfortunately, from pulpits all across this country, people have been indoctrinated into selfishness. Yes. It's all about me. Yes. And this is a statement. says this: your life should not be about you. Your life should not be about you. Let's look at Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. Your life should not be about you. Look at verse 25. Therefore I tell you, this is Yeshua talking, don't worry about your life. What you will eat or drink, about your body, what you will wear. Isn't life more than food and the body more than clothing? Then he goes into this whole little discourse and says, hey, Solomon had some really nice clothes. He was dressed very well. Okay? You know, Solomon had so much going on for him. You remember when the Queen of Sheba came to see him? She fainted. Okay? It was so much just at the grandeur of the reality of all that surrounded Solomon. But he said Solomon, in all of his glory, in all of his ability to wear the nice fine linens and all that kind of stuff, he still didn't beat the Father the way he clothed the fields. Come on. And he said, don't you understand that the Father will take care of the flowers in the field? He'll take care of you. Come on. Then he said, he says, how many of you, even by taking, your King James Bible says taking thought, it means the word. How many of you by word can even add another second to your life? Do you think about the things that we spend time stressing over? Things that we spend time worried about. I don't have this, I don't have the things we spend time focusing our energy and effort and mind on, get bent out of shape over. They mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. This is what I'm telling you. Don't put so much concern on it, because he says you're acting like a heathen, right? Then he said the stuff, all this stuff, that's what the heathen see. Right? We got to be different. We should not be subjected to the same type of vanity as a heathen. Right? Come on. We're going to get down to it a little bit. When we start getting down to the list of commands, we're going to talk about covetousness. I'm not going to talk about it today. But we're going to talk about the reality of what he's telling us when he tells us not to do that, where it comes from. So your life should not be about you. Right? Because then he gets to verse 33 and says, this is what you need to do. Seek ye first. Who's first? The Father is. Kingdom of heaven and his righteousness. What is his righteousness? His righteousness is just put in this context. His righteousness is his way of doing things. And how does he tell us his way of doing things? He gives us his Torah. He gives us his commands, his statutes, he gives us his Torah to tell us this is how I want it done. It wasn't just for Israel to do. Israel was supposed to be a light to the nations so that all nations would see how the Father wants you to behave. This is how I want you to live. Matter of fact, this is how I made you to live. Do you know treating people right is health to you? Do you know it improves your health? Do you know it improves your mental state? Yes. Wow. So, write down Psalm 39, verse 4 through 8. I'm not going to go there. But in Psalm 39, verse 4 through 8, you'll find that the psalmist says that at our best, we're nothing but breath. At our best, we're nothing but a vapor. Six-pack, 20-pack. Vapor. All the vapor. All fleeting. All passing. All here, now, gone. In a moment. It appears for just a moment, and then it's gone. Yeah. Just a vapor. Okay? So now flip over to Matthew chapter 10. Bring this business to a close. After this, we're going to have one more passage. It's going to be our segue into our next portion. Okay, Matthew chapter 10, look at verse 36. I'm giving you a lot of scripture because I want you to see it. Matthew chapter 10, verse number 36. Verse 34. Don't suppose that I have come to bring peace to the land. It is not peace I have come to bring, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, so that a man's enemies will be the members of his own household. I'll deal with that another time, so we can clearly understand. But I'll go. But he says, whosoever loves his mother or father more than he loves me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than he loves me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take up his execution stake and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his own life will lose it. To you. But the person who loses his life for my sake will find it. Do you see what Yeshua is saying? He's saying, do you understand? Do you really even understand that anything that you put in front of me, anybody that you put, if you're putting somebody or something else in front of me, you are not worthy of me. But he says, you got to take up your execution statement. You gotta take this vapor, right? And you gotta make it an offering. You gotta take this vapor and make it an offering. I beseech you therefore, brother, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable, is your reasonable service. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may be able to prove what is a good, perfect, acceptable will of God. Take this vapor and make it an offering. It gives it purpose. It gives it a greater purpose when I take it and make it an offering. When I take this vapor and make it a sweet smelling savor in the nostrils of the Father. And the only way I can do that is by living in a manner way that pleases him. So with this small chance that I have, this small window that I have, with this small vapor that I have, I don't have time for disobedience. I don't have time for disobedience. I only have, no matter how much time I have or how much time I think I have, I only have enough time to do what he says. You think Yeshua was saying when they asked him in John the 4th chapter, hey, we're getting ready to go get something to eat. You want something to eat? No, Yeshua says to them, my meat is to do the will of my Father. That's of utmost importance to me. It's to do his will. It's to do what he says. I'm telling you right now, if your life is about you, it's not worth anything. My life cannot be about me. My life has to be about the one who saved my life, who has redeemed my life from death and destruction. So my life has to be about it. So your life should not be about you. Your life must only be about him. Is at your best, all you are is a vapor. You might as well make the best of this vapor. Might as well make the best of this fleeting, passing moment that you have here. Don't put too much stock in this right here. Don't do it. Don't put too much. Appreciate the good moments. Appreciate the things that you can enjoy. Absolutely, yeah. The listeners, yeah. Enjoy your life. But I'm telling you, the maximum enjoyment of life happens through obedience. You're not really enjoying life if you're not obedient to him. That stuff is temporary, it's passive, it's momentary. Y'all, we have seen too many examples and no stuff doesn't do. We've seen too many examples. We've seen too many movie stars take their life. We've seen too many popular people commit suicide. We've seen too many wealthy people jump from the top of the building, from the penthouse to one of the penthouse suite, because we know stuff doesn't do it. Stuff doesn't do it. I'm not saying the Father won't allow us to have any will, but stuff doesn't do it. It doesn't set. That's not what satisfies. Matthew chapter 5 tells us what satisfies. He who hungers and thirsts after righteousness is the only one that's going to be filled. Right? Okay. This is going to be my segue passage. Talk about it a little bit. We'll have to finish this up. Ephesians chapter 4, verse number 17. Write down Jeremiah 23:16. Jeremiah 23:16. And Jeremiah 2 and 5. Here's what we have to be careful of. We cannot merge our worship of the Father with the vanity of our flesh. Because when we do that, our worship is in vain. Ephesians chapter 4, look at verse 17. Therefore, I say this. Indeed, in union with the Lord, I insist on it. Do not live any longer as the pagans live with their sterile ways of thinking. Their intelligence has been shrouded in darkness, and they are estranged from the life of God because of the ignorance in them, which in turn comes from resisting God's will. Oh my gosh. They have lost all feeling. Watch this. So they have abandoned themselves to sensuality, practicing any kind of impurity, and always greedy for more. But this is not the lesson we learned from the Messiah. Let's not worship the way the pagans worship. Didn't Jeremiah tell us that? Jeremiah chapter 10. Didn't he tell us that? He says the customs of the people are futile. They are purposeless. They are useless. They are nothing. That's why the Father told the people, don't take what they do, the pagans do, and try to bring it and worship me with it. That's why we got away from the bunnies and all that craziness. All right, we got away from the bunnies and the eggs and all of that, because he says, don't take what the pagans do and offer it to their gods and then come and try to bring it to me and offer it to me and say, well, I'm doing it for God. Y'all, that's a trap from the adversary. Yes. It's a trap from the adversary for us to say, okay, well, we're just doing what we're doing, because one of the inroads, right, that happened among the people that were in the body was when we started trying to be relevant. We started trying to be relevant. We're just trying to become all things to all men that we might win something. There's a difference in becoming all things to all men and actually becoming the men. It's two different things. And in some ways, there is so much compromise in the name of doing it for God. So we feel like we can just do anything we feel like doing and then say, well, we're doing it for God. And because we slap a leg on and say we're doing it for him, then this is what we're doing, so we go forward with it. And really what we're doing is mixing the worship of the Father with the vanity of our flesh. Amen. Because that vanity wants to be accepted, that vanity wants to be liked, when Yeshua told you you're actually going to be hated. And it's not even about you. They hate you because they hated me. Isn't that something? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that because we have to hear this as his people. Because what we have to do is we have to teshuva, repent. It's a Hebrew word. We have to turn away from. We have to turn away from those things that are displeasing to him. And we have to say, okay, if he didn't say it, if he didn't say do it, if that's not the way he said to do it, then I need to divorce myself from it. Right? Because when you read, when he says, in vain the people worship me, teaching for commandments, the traditions of men. And the traditions of men comes out of our own vanity. Know why? Because those traditions speak to our sacred cows of what we hold to, what we trust in, what we believe, and because we hold and we trust in our sometimes the systems that we put in place, the doctrinal tenets and all this kind of thing that we put in place. So sometimes people's doctrine has become the idol. Their own specific doctrine has become their own specific belief system has become their idol, and they will defend their idol above the Father himself. So I'm praying that we would see that the Father wants us to divorce ourselves away from that vanity. When I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about sound. I'm talking about truth. I'm talking about the things, the traditions that men have heaped upon people and have brought in and have elevated those things, even above the word itself. I mean, I've read with these 4 eyes. I have read in manuals that said we don't accept these particular passages as doctrine. Well, how do you do that? When Paul says all scripture is given by inspiration of God and profitable for doctrine. How do you not accept any passage at all as doctrine? It's teaching. So I'm just praying that we would see and recognize this thing called vanity, so we can separate ourselves from it and function in pure worship. And I'm going to give you some homework. Go and study Jeremiah chapter 16. We go and study Jeremiah chapter 16 from that particular point when we read. Amen. Father, thank you for your word. Let your word take root and produce fruit in us. We give you the glory, praise, and honor, Father, for you speaking to us, giving us the clarity of thought, giving us the ability to articulate, say what you have to say. We appreciate you. Let us make the quality decision not to just be hearers, but to be doers of the word, so that you might be pleasing us. We just want to please you. And now, Father, we thank you for every hearer, for every heart, for every person that does not have a relationship with you, that they will turn their hearts to you, Father, and live for you. We give you the glory, honor, and praise now for hearts and minds that are changing. For those who will turn and give their hearts and lives to you and live for you according to your purpose and your plan. And now we thank you, Father, that you do bless us and keep us and make your face to shine upon us. You're gracious to us. You give to us your shalom. You put your name upon us, your people. You bless us. Lord, in your care and your comfort. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Hallelujah.